Can one of you confirm if you can see the slides?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Okay, so the new chapter is called Network Design and Planning. So this is a kind of continuing what we have started before. This is the second part, but a new chapter. And this is talking about designing the supply chain network. Okay, SC means supply chain. So what are the goals, learning objectives? Understanding the role of network design in a supply chain. So why network design is very important for a supply chain? Second learning objective is identifying factors influencing supply chain. Factors influencing supply chain network design decisions. So there are a set of decisions that impact the supply chain design. We want to see what are those influencing factors. Third learning objective is develop a framework for making network design decisions. So if I hire one of you tomorrow, let's say I am CEO of a company, and I ask you, could you please design a new supply chain network for me? Then which framework you should use? How should you proceed with my request? Okay. So a framework that we are going to learn today is going to help us to design any supply chain in future. And finally, use optimization for facility location and capacity allocation decisions. This part I am not going to ask in final exam or midterm. This is just for your extra information. That's why I am not going to open up a lot on this topic. I have provided all information. I have provided the Excel sheets for you. So this is a kind of self-learning tool, and I'm not going to ask it in your exams, any types of exams or projects. Okay, let's start with network design decision. When you want to design a network, first of all, let's open it up. What do we mean by a network? Do you have any idea? What is the definition of a network? Any comment? What do we call a network?
It's just so we it's a connection between multiple things.
Yes, when we have a set of things, okay, a set of nodes, for example, that they are connected with each other, they can create something which we call it network. Yeah. So we have some nodes here, some circles here, some triangles here, okay, and some squares here, okay. Let's say they are connected to each other, and let's say, for example, this triangle should be connected to this. This circle should connect to this, and then only this one. And this circle should also connect to this triangle and this one. So we are creating a kind of network, okay? So that we know how this network is working, how these entities are working. Can you bring some examples for us? Any network that you have in your mind? Any daily experience? So supply chain is a network, is it right?
Yes, yes.
So what do we have normally? Let's say here we have suppliers, is it right? Then we have manufacturers and
Retailer.
retailers. This is a very, very simple network, yeah? So the basic thing that I want to start today is to teach you what does a network mean. Network means we have some nodes. These nodes are connected to each other, and then we expect something to happen. What do we normally see in such networks? The first thing is facilities. We have a set of facilities, okay? So how many manufacturing plants, production lines, distribution centers, cross-docking facilities do we need, okay? So how many of them we need? Is 3 retailer enough in this example? Is two manufacturing companies enough here? Is three suppliers enough here? So this is the first thing we need to think about. Another thing, another very important decision when it comes to designing a network is where to establish. Is it right? For example, I want to establish a network in a warehouse in Nova Scotia, okay, in the province of Nova Scotia in Canada. Where is the best recommendation for you? What comes to your mind? Is it good that I establish it in Sydney? Is it good that I establish it close to a, let's say, large community such as Halifax? Or it's better that I establish it in the middle so that it supports both of them, okay? So this is called facility location decision. We want to decide where to locate each facility, okay? Is it clear for everyone? What do we mean by facility location decisions?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Excellent. So the third decision that we need to make is capacity allocation, okay? So let's say you want to make a warehouse in Sydney and you want to make a warehouse in Halifax. What should be the right size or right capacity for each of them? Okay, so that's the decision we will make as the third step, capacity allocation. Okay, this is also a very important decision because if we design a network, if we design a facility, we establish it, and then later on we notice that it is not large enough, so we are wasting our time and money. Okay, so capacity allocation is very important. Sometimes you may say that the warehouse that I am establishing in Nova Scotia should also be able to support Newfoundland and Labrador, okay, another province. Or it should support New Brunswick as well. It should support, I don't know, PEI as well. So in that case, you're assigning extra capacity to each store. That is called capacity allocation. What's the next one? Market and supply allocation. What markets will be supplied? Which supply sources we are going to use, okay? So in other words, you're talking about these two aspects. Which locations you want to support, which demand sectors you want to support, and also uh, are you going to bring the products from China or Asia, any country in Asia, or you want to use local resources, let's say mostly Canadian products, okay? So these are two other decisions that you have to make in order to decide about market, which is retailers and where you locate your stores, and supply, which is where you buy your raw materials. Okay, any question from this slide?
No, sir.
No, sir.
Okay, so let's move on to network design decisions. Let's learn a little bit more. We need to revisit design decisions after market changes, mergers, or factor cost changes. Okay, what do we mean? So let's say I have designed a network like this. I have decided to have one warehouse in Halifax and one warehouse in Sydney. Let's say 5 years is passing, and does it still work? Or let's say population is changing, people are adding or moving from different places. So does my decision that I have made 5 years ago still working? No, because market is changing, okay? Maybe I have decided to enter to new business. Maybe we have some population growth and many other things. Let's say I have new competitors coming to the market and I have to be more agile and I have more competencies to beat the market. So what I have decided 5 years ago is not going to work forever. I should revisit my design decisions. So in which cases you revisit your design decisions? or in other words, decide to open a new store, decide to open a new production line, decide to open a new um, warehouse. So when market changes, this is number one. Number two, when merge happens, okay? Merges, what does merge means? Do you have any idea?
Like merging different warehouses, combining.
Like combining.
Yes, a kind of combining. A clear example of combining in Canada is Sobeys and Safeway. Okay, so what happened some years ago, maybe 5, 6 years ago, um, Safeway and Sobeys decided to merge with each other so that they can share the market. So Safeway is mostly supporting west of Canada and Sobeys is mostly supporting east of Canada. Okay, so the owners are the same. They used to be separate, but no, they merged together and then they decided to design a new network. Another example is Superstore and Shoppers Drug Mart. Okay, Shoppers Drug Mart used to be a totally different company, like the same as Superstore. They are also totally different companies. But Loblaw, which is the owner of Superstore and No Frills and many other companies, they decided to purchase Shoppers Drug Mart. So Shoppers is right now one of their brands, one of their stores. So a merger has happened here. And let's say the cost is changing. Let's say if the price of if the price of fuel, if the price of energy, if the price of power changes over the time, okay, so the previous decisions could not be feasible anymore. So that's the time to change your decisions. Okay, so these are only 3 examples. Definitely, there are more reasons for revisiting your design decision, but these are 3 examples. Okay, the decisions define the physical constraints within which the network must operate as market condition changes. So we are playing with some physical constraint. For example, adding a new warehouse, adding a new retail store, adding a new production line, entering to new markets. So we are talking about those physical constraints. Okay, what is a good network? A good network design decision increases profits by supporting the supply chain strategy. So if you have a network design that you're losing money, so it's a clear sign that you don't have a good network design decision. Okay, so uh, that's the main goal. Yeah, we are a business. We should end up with some increased profit. If you don't gain some surplus, so it looks that the decision to design the network like this is not working and we should revise it. Okay, so these are all about the importance of network design and why they are important, because they impact the profitability of our supply chain. So that's very important and critical and strategic decision. Okay, there are some factors, some important indicators, something that really matter, that impact network design decisions. Let's see what are those factors. Number one is strategic factors. Okay, so what are those strategic factors? A very clear sign is firm's competitive strategy. Okay, for example, you have decided to target high income people. You have decided to target low income people. You have decided to target tech followers, those who love technology. You have decided to target elderly people, okay, the people who are, you know, in retirement. So you see, those factors are very important in order to shape that how you want to offer your services, how you want to offer your products. Okay, so If you have targeted elderly people, okay, do you think you should offer home delivery products or they should come to your retailer store?
Home delivery, sir.
Yes, it's
home
clear.
delivery.
Excellent. You should have home delivery. If you design a network for elder people, for example, supply of products for old people, and you ask them to come to your store with no service to deliver the products to their home, you are missing your market. You have designed a network that is not going to bring you some profitability. Okay, this was a clear example. Next one is technological factors. So high tech facility versus low tech facility. So how do you want to design your network? Is your product something that requires high tech facility, or this is a product that you can make it anywhere? Okay, because why this is important? Why do you think technological factors matters? Any idea? Do we have experts everywhere to work for our company?
Yes, sir. I mean, it is actually matters because wherever you have you design your network, and at that location, if you don't have a technological skill, then it will be a problem. I mean, to get the skill worker.
That's right. And also, in terms of support of technology, okay? For example, if you're in a modern environment such as Europe, you don't think so much about technology support from companies, yeah? But if you are living in a company, if you are living in a country or you're offering a service in a country that they don't have access to high tech, okay, or the company that is providing technology has no branch there, so you see that easily you are impacted. That's why you may choose to use low tech technology if you don't have access to that. Other factors, macroeconomic factors, okay, high level economic factors, like what? Like tariffs and taxes, exchange rate, demand risk, freight, and fuel cost. So these are something that are normally changing in different countries or different provinces or different territories, so that they motivate you uh, to invest in those countries. For example, if somebody wants to establish a factory in North Pole, so because that's in indigenous environment and they supports jobs for indigenous people, so government brings you some tax relief, yeah, gives you some subsidies, and that's very valuable, yeah. That's why many people like to go there and establish a factory there. But what do you think about the results of that decision? Do you have enough experts there? Do you think that you can easily move people to North Pole? So that's another factor. But anyway, the tariffs and taxes, they brings you some incentives so that you can go to certain locations. So why we have many manufacturing companies in Asia? What's the reason behind that?
So high supply of
There are
labor and low cost of labor as well.
there are a
Yes.
lot of special economic zones like industrial areas,
Yeah,
which provide duty benefits and other stuff.
that's right. So why Europe and North America? They will no more put a lot of budgets for manufacturing there.
It's costly, sir. I mean, if you look at the exchange rate, it will be costly to provide remuneration to the labor. So
That's right.
definitely cost will
That's
be
right.
increased.
So that's why many companies decide to use the macroeconomic factors to establish their manufacturing. So manufacturing is one of the facilities we already talked, yeah? One of the facility roles that we already discussed. So if you design a network that the manufacturing happens in a country that they give you some tax relief or exchange rate in a good rate actually. So what's the result of that? you're going to benefit. You will end up to profitability, which is the goal of a supply chain. Okay, political factors like what? Like stability of a country, independence of a country, and independence and clear legal system. So if you got any problem and you need to go to court, so should you bribe? Should you be confident that they will not cheat on you? Everything will be injustice, something like that. So these are the other factors that you should also consider. Infrastructure factors, okay? If you go to a country or territory or city that they don't have access to rail, they don't have a port, they don't have appropriate roads, okay? They don't have access to, let's say, electricity, internet, something like that. So that's another factor. Competitive factors, okay? This is a very important topic as well. Please pay attention to this one. Competitive factors come to play when you are trying to compete with your rivals. Okay, like what? In this case, I want to introduce a new term which is called positive externalities. Okay, positive externalities. So sometimes you believe that if you establish a facility close to your rivals, it will add value. Okay, sometimes you prefer to be as far as possible from your rivals. Okay, so these are two totally different examples. When you prefer to be very close to your rival, in that case, positive externalities happen. Okay, do you have any example that you prefer to go very close to your rival?
Some add-on services, sir.
Some,
Add-on services like uh, what do you call? I mean, home delivery or anything.
so you go close to your rival. I mean, your store is besides your rival.
Shopping malls wherein different brands or in the same place near to near, like for example Louis Philippe, Van Heusen having shops nearby, so we choose to go any one of them based on some discounts or something.
That's right. So that's a good example of shopping centers or malls. So what happens when you go to a shopping center? For example, you want to buy shoes. You see so many brands of shoes there. They are all rivals. They are all competing against each other. But what happens? Why they have decided to do such a crazy work? What's your idea?
Actually, customers will also have an options.
That's right. Customer will have
Yeah,
options.
one-stop shop. Yeah.
Exactly. So people can go there, they can compare different brands and make a decision. Although you're besides your competitors, but you're sure that you have some special characteristics in your products that you absorb certain types of customers. Okay, so that's why you prefer to be besides your rivals. This is called positive externalities. In which cases you don't like positive externalities, or in other words, positive externalities does not exist. In which cases? Do you have any example in your mind?
Grocery store.
Grocery stores. So what happens there? That's a good example.
Actually, like the products which are present in grocery stores, they don't have any brand tags or something. So it is pointless. You pay for the customers to select some groceries.
Okay, so let me revise your example. So if we have a, let's say, a Walmart in west of Sydney, okay, And if we want to establish a second Walmart in Sydney, do we make it side by side of the first Walmart, or we put it in the other side of the city?
Other side of the city.
Other side.
Extreme.
Excellent. Or let's say we already have one Walmart in Sydney, in west of Sydney, and then we want to make a new superstore or Sobeys. Should we put it besides that or on the other side of the city?
On the other
Beside
Other
is
side.
side.
good because
On the other
beside
side.
is good, sir.
Beside
Okay.
may not be good, okay? Because who wants to cover the people who are living on the east side? Okay, so people who are living on the east side should travel, which makes it difficult. So when you separate the markets with your rivals, so you're kind of splitting the market. Yeah, this is good when you want to gain a certain share of the market. Okay, so you prefer to be closer to your customers. Okay, this is totally opposite of the first strategy, which was positive externalities. In which cases the first one is better, in which cases the second one is better, this is something that you should figure it out, okay, depending on the products that you're offering, depending on the market that you are, okay. But this is a very, interesting topic of discussion. You can think about that later, and that's under competitive factors. Okay, next factors that influence network design is customer response time and service level. Okay, so any idea about that? So when a network, when a company decides to be responsive, okay, when they decide to be responsive, should they be worried about response time and service level or not?
Yes.
They should be. So that's why if they measure the response time of their customers, they see that it takes them half an hour to drive to reach to the first store, they may think of establishing a new store, okay, for the people who are on the area that is recently developed, or the population is growing and they don't have access to store products. Okay, so this is another product. Many companies are tracking response time for their customers and also service level. Okay, if the service level is not appropriate, they may think of expanding the size of their stores so that they can bring more products. Okay, logistics and facility costs. Any idea about this factor?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. I mean, it is transportation costs and the facility like warehouses and the showrooms cost.
Excellent. So if you are living in a country that the uh, fuel cost is very cheap, okay, and you have a well-developed roads, should you worry about establishing a large warehouse, or we can receive the products at a low cost? What do you think?
Low cost.
So yeah, that's very clear. And on the other side, if you are living in a country that the price of fuel price is very high, you don't have very well established roads, and the price of making a warehouse is very low. So what should you do? You should have more facilities, yeah, instead of thinking about transportation. That's why all of these factors should be considered when you're deciding about designing a network. Is it clear for everyone?
Yes,
Should
sir.
should I explain more? Okay, let's move to the next slide. Factors influencing network design. Still, we are talking about that. Network design decisions are influenced by non-quantifiable factors like what? Non-quantifiable factors means something that you cannot say in terms of numbers. Such as what? Such as strategic items, which type of customers you want to target, competitive factors, do you want to go close to your customers, close to your rivals or far away from them, political factors, do they have a fair judgment system, fair courts in their company, in their country, do they have a stabilized government there, and infrastructures, do they have enough roads? Do they have enough electricity and, let's say, internet in their country? So these are the factors that are called non-quantifiable factors. Definitely the rest of them are mostly quantifiable. It means that you can measure in terms of numbers. Like what? Like logistics and facility cost. You can measure in terms of cost. How much is the cost of making a warehouse? How much is the cost of transporting um, a trailer for 100 kilometers? So these are something that you can evaluate them in terms of money, for example. These decisions are also influenced by quantifiable factors, as I mentioned, like desired response time, service level, total logistic cost, and tariffs and taxes. So these are something that you can measure it. So in total, again, factors are divided into non-quantifiables and quantifiables. Network design decisions should be checked for robustness in the face of fluctuations in demand, cost, and exchange rate. Okay, can somebody explain what does robust mean or robustness mean? What do we call a robust network?
Robust means effective or without any
Highly
um,
talented.
failures. Techno
Okay, so let's list and see which one is correct. Robustness. What was the first one? The first definition you mentioned?
no, it is like very effective, like
Effective. Okay. Any
yeah,
other
and
word?
Like highly
It's in
talented.
good condition or something like that.
Any word for that? Any? What do we call a robust? Do we mean by robust flexible? Do we mean resilient? Do we mean
resilient.
Resilient, sir.
Powerful.
powerful? Okay. What
Usually,
else?
which will not affect to the demand, cost, and exchange rate, which is slightly
So
fixed.
Okay.
reliable.
Thank you. So there are so many words that you can use, but there is no any accurate word that you can replace robust. For example, some people could say rigid, yeah. But what is the correct name for a robust system? A robust system is that is not going to impacted by changes. That's a system that if different factors goes up and down, the system is still working. The system is still profitable. The system is still successful. Okay, so that is called robust network or robust network design. Okay, so what does it mean? It means that when you're designing a network, you should consider what if the exchange rate changes over the time. Okay, 10 years ago, Canadian dollar had higher exchange rate compared to US dollar. It means that one Canadian dollar was almost equal to 1.10 US dollar. Okay. What is the fact today? One Canadian dollar is equal to how much of US dollar?
1.25, sir.
No less.
Yeah, right. It's less now. Okay.
Yeah, like let's say 78 or 77, something like that, US dollar. So it means that the exchange rate is changing. So in a certain time that we were talking, You could gain more money if you make something in Canada and then export it to US. Right now, it could be totally different. It could be making more sense that you bring the products from US to Canada, or maybe vice versa. So you see, exchange rate easily impacts where you should establish your network. So if you consider such factors, for example, fuel cost, if you consider the cost of fuel, so that up to which threshold still the cost of logistics and transportation is low with your option. Okay, so that is called a robust network design. Clear for everyone?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that we learned about the importance of network design, and also we learned about factors contributing to network design, influencing factors. Now we want to talk about a framework. Okay, so what do we mean by framework? Framework is a kind of a structure, is a kind of process that you want to use in order to make network design decisions. Okay, those are called frameworks. So what is the goal? We want to maximize overall profitability of the supply chain network while providing customers with appropriate responsiveness. Okay, so we have both goals in mind. We, as the owner of supply chain, we want to maximize our profit or reduce the cost. So you want to be efficient. Also, we want to make our customers happy. So we want to be also responsive. So we want to consider both of them. We don't want to sacrifice one against the other one. Okay, so we should be considering both objectives. Definitely, there are many trade-offs during the network design. Can you bring one of those trade-offs? Any comment, for example, any trade-offs that we should make? So what does trade-off mean? You give something and then earn something else. Okay. Do you remember last session what we were talking? So you may have more stores, but what you're gaining when you have more stores? When you have more stores, you are more responsive, but also you are
More efficient.
more costly.
More efficient. Yeah.
Not efficient, actually, more costly. Yeah. When you have more stores, what does it mean? It means that you know, you need to establish large warehouses like uh, any store, and then it will be very costly for you. Okay, so those are called trade-offs. We already talked about them in last session. Network design models are used to decide on location and capacities. Okay, where should we establish? How should be the size of that? Okay, capacity means the size of that. For example, size of warehouse, size of production facility, size of store, and also assign current demand to facilities and identify transportation lanes. Okay, so let's say I have decided to establish a warehouse in Moncton. So which provinces will be supplied from there? Nova Scotia, Prince Edward Island, Labrador, Newfoundland, or New Brunswick. So you have to decide how to assign different demands to each facility. Okay, so what do you see in this figure? A very complicated figure, yeah?
There's a complete framework of the network design wherein it is showing the phases of the network of the design, how it works.
Excellent, yeah. So how many phases you see in this figure?
Four.
Four phases.
4 phases,
Four.
excellent. That's right. So what do you see in the first phase?
So it's a strategic phase wherein high level decision can be taken, like investment on warehouses, logistics, which cannot be changed easily within a 1 year or two. So long-term decision can be taken in this phase one.
Okay, so let's make it simple. So what's the name of that? Supply chain strategy. Okay, so what are the inputs for phase number one? So something that have an arrow to phase one.
Competitive strategy, internal constraint, and global competition.
Yeah, so that's clear in this picture. So competitive strategy is one of the inputs. Yeah, we already know that which type of customer you want to target. What matters to your customers? Okay, what is the priority of your customers? So this is called competitive strategy. Then internal constraints. Okay, how much money you have, which capital do you have, what is your strategy? Do you want to expand what you're doing right now, or you're happy with your existing work? These are called internal constraints. And on the other side, what's happening in the world? Okay, are your competitors doing great? Are they thinking to, for example, expand their network? Are they thinking to introduce new products? Okay, so if you mix these three inputs, okay, then you will have one output. What is your output? So the output of phase one is a clear supply chain strategy. So what you want to do, okay, how you want to design um, your supply chain to respond to all of these factors: competitive strategy, internal constraint, and global competition. Then you will enter to phase two. Phase two, we call it regional facility configuration. So you go one level lower. Okay, so this is a very top level. And then you will go one level lower. So you go to regional facility configuration. Okay, what is the output of phase one? For example, I want to open a new branch in US. I want to open a new branch in Europe. I want to bring raw material from India or China or any Asian countries. So these are one of the outputs from phase number one. Okay. Then you would say that, okay, I have decided to enter Asian countries, for example. Now I want to evaluate different Asian countries options. What are different options? I have to evaluate production technologies available in those countries, like cost, scale, or scope impact, support required, flexibility. So different factors related to production. What are the other things? Competitive environment. If, for example, I enter Asia, what are the competitive environment? How supportive is the environment? Aggregate factors and logistic costs. So how much would be the cost of transportation? How much is the cost of establishing a warehouse? How much is the cost of uh, establishing any facility? Tariffs and taxes. Does any government in Asia provide tariffs and taxes? Do they give some subsidies? Do they give some incentives? Which country provides such services? Regional demand also matters, because you may think, if I'm making in an Asian country, why I shouldn't consume some of my productions in that market? Why I shouldn't sell some of my products to that regional size area? So you will think about size, growth, homogeneity, and local specifications. Okay, so which country provides you a better value in this size? And finally, political, exchange rate, and demand risk. So these are the factors you consider about the economy and political situation of that country. Okay. So do you think that if you have a factory for 10 years, the situation is going to change over 10 years, and then you have to stop working in that country for any reason? So these are the things that you should consider. Okay. What is the output of phase 2? So you have a good sense of region, yeah? You have a good sense of different options that are provided. For example, you may say that I can go to China, I can go to Philippines, or I can go to India, for example, 3 countries. You notice that these 3 countries provide you the best option among all Asian countries. Okay, that's the output of phase number 2. Okay, what should you do in phase number 3? Desirable sites. So in this case, you will search about, as we can see, production methods. So skills needed, response time that is required, available infrastructures. So you will think about, you know, different options that are available in that local area that you have already shortlisted. And then you will decide which of them provides you a better value in terms of desirable sites. Okay. So after you decided, for example, this province in India is the best place, or this city in the Philippines provides you the best results, then you will go one level lower. Okay, that's the output to the last stage. In the last stage, you will consider factor costs such as labor, material, and specific costs related to that location. And also you will consider logistic cost, transportation, inventory, any cost that you will need for the final stage. So in final stage, you will have 2, 3 options. Then you will choose one certain options as the output of this process. Okay, is it clear for everyone? Should I explain any part of it again? So as you can see, we started from a very high level. Okay, step number 1, very high level. So we decided about what is our capability. What should we do? Should we enter a new market? Should we go and establish a new production line or not? If we decided to establish a new production line, then we will say which regions are better, okay? Which countries we want to enter, and what are different options available. So you evaluate different regional options. Number 3, or stage number 3, or phase number 3, you will select your desirable sites. You will get to a few options here. And finally, in the last stage, by considering cost, and you will decide that which location is best to establish your new factory or new warehouse or new store. Okay, so these are 4 steps that you will follow. Okay, the rest of slides are just going to talk about that, like define a supply chain strategy or design. So you should have a clear definition of firm's competitive strategy. So which type of customer you're targeting. Forecast the likely evolution of global competition. So what do you see? Is your business going to grow? If your business going to shrink? If your competitors are doing something great? Identify constraints on available capital. For example, you don't have enough money, you have enough money, you are gaining so much capital, you have a lot of lands, you can easily sell them and gain some money and then establish a new market. So these are something that you should think about that. Determine broad supply strategies such as growth strategies. Okay, after you consider all of these factors, you may think, should I think about growing my business, or I should think to stay at what level I am right now? I am happy with where I am, okay? I don't need to grow. So that's the output here. Phase number 2, as we already discussed, define the regional facility configurations, okay? Like what? We should forecast for demand by country or region. Okay, how do you see the demand for your products in a new country or new region? Identify fixed and variable cost and economies of scale and economies of scope. Who knows what does economies of scale mean? Any idea? I think I have repeated 2-3 times in this semester.
Like being responsive or effective.
Economies of scales. Any idea?
Is it related to the fund, sir? I mean,
So your
how
increase or decrease
extent
in
you
the
can.
profit.
Okay, so you remember I brought you the example of using your car to travel? Or using a half track or full track? Okay, that's fine. You're young, but your memory is not as strong as some of other people. So that's fine. People may easily forget. I also forget, that's fine. But economies of scale, what does it mean? It means that when you use the entire available capacity, for example, you have a machine that can make 100 parts per hour, but right now you are making 10 parts per hour. So are you using economies of scale? Yes or
No.
no?
No.
No. So because you are not using your maximum capacity. Okay, that is called economies of scale. And if you remember, I brought you the example of driving your car. For example, you are living in Sydney, you want to visit your friends in Halifax. Okay, so you have a car. If you drive only by yourself, you are alone in your car, so that's a certain cost. If you take some of your friends, so the cost will be shared. Okay, so that is using the maximum capacity of car. Okay, so that's economies of scale. The same for a truck. So a truck, if it is full loaded, what's going to happen? They are using economies of scale. But if they just make it half loaded, what's going to happen? They are not using economies of scale. Everybody understand?
Yes, Professor.
Okay. So what does economies of scope mean? Any idea?
Is it same like scale?
No, it's not.
Oh.
Anticipation.
You know, I can easily skip these things, but I really like you to learn. Yeah. I don't want to just, finish today's discussion. I want to make sure you learn something. So what does economies of scope mean? Okay. So there are some stores that they provide only one brand. Yeah. They say this is what we have. Okay. There are some stores that they have a lot of brands. So they give you a lot of options to purchase. Okay, that is called economies of scope. A question, do they make money out of all of the items they bring to their stores?
No, sir.
Probably not, that's right. Probably not. Maybe they are bringing many products so that they want to satisfy different customers' demand. Maybe they are not making enough profit from each of them, but they would say, we are very responsive. We want to make all of our customers happy. Okay. There are many examples. You can, if you think you can bring many examples that different companies, different industries, they are offering some products that they are losing money on them, but still they are offering. Yeah. Because they believe they should have a good portfolio of products. They should have a good basket of products so that customer can choose from them. Yeah. If you think about that, you will find some examples in different countries. So you understand the difference between economies of scale and economies of scope. Yeah. Okay. What is the next factor? Identify regional tariff requirements for local production tax incentives, export and import restriction. This is exactly what we discussed here. Yeah, these are the factors that we reviewed in phase number 2. Identify competitors. Who are your competitors in the new market? Okay, when you want to enter new markets, who are the people that you should have some challenges with? And finally, identify risk, exchange rate, and political risk. Okay, this is exactly what we discussed here. Okay, phase number 3. Select a set of desirable potential sites. Here you will nominate a set of locations to decide, and this is the goal in order to select one of them. Here you will consider some infrastructures as well. So as if I go back, you will consider available infrastructures. What do we mean by available infrastructures? Infrastructure is clear, yeah? Something that helps you to grow your business. Some basic but very important things that you should have. Like what? Do you have any example?
Like even we can say road facilities, and
Better
Excellent.
roads, rails,
Excellent.
basically
Yes,
transport
internets.
facilities.
that's right. That's right. So these are all considered infrastructures. So something that are basic but required in order to grow your business. Okay. So as you can see here, those infrastructures are divided into 2 categories: hard infrastructures and soft infrastructures. What do we mean by hard infrastructures? These are something like availability of suppliers, transportation services, communication services or technologies, utilities such as gas, electricity, water, um, and also warehouse facilities. So these are some basic, they are mostly physical. Yeah, do you feel them? They're mostly physical items that are available. On the other side, we have soft infrastructure requirements, such as what? Availability of a skilled workforce. Okay, skilled workforce. With, for example, if you establish a factory in North Pole, yes, you will receive some incentives, as I mentioned already. But do you have enough workforce there? No, probably not. Or if you want to take them there, it will be very costly. Workforce turnover. What does it mean? Is it good that you have a high workforce turnover or low turnover?
No.
Low.
Low. Definitely low is better. Why? Because it means that um, you know you have a good match between the characteristics of people and the job that you offer. Okay, so uh, definitely lower workforce turnover shows a better quality and value of workforce. And finally, the community's receptivity to business and industry. Okay, what does it mean? Can you bring any example if you have in your mind?
You don't want to invest in a volatile environment.
Yeah, that's right. Any other example?
Acceptability of it.
Uh, for example, if you have a community that they believe, uh, you know, for example, I can bring you a very life example. In indigenous environment in Canada, so First Nations or who the people who have been here for 1,000 years, we call them First Nations or indigenous people. They believe that we should respect environment because we believe they believe that we are a part of environment and we should respect it. Okay. Because of that reason, many industries that are pollutant and destroying the environment have challenges to establish in indigenous areas. Why? Because those communities are not receptive to such businesses. Okay, so if you have a pollutant business, you won't be accepted by those areas. So you won't be supported by people in those areas. So you will have a serious soft infrastructure challenge in those areas. Okay, is it clear for everyone? These factors are very important nowadays, and they are growing day by day, because we have seen many businesses getting or ending up to bankrupts because of not respecting to social factors or soft infrastructure requirements. Okay, and so that's phase 3, and phase 4 will be location choices. Okay, in this phase we will use some mathematical models in order to decide which location is the best. Okay, when I say mathematical models, am I using a quantitative approach or qualitative approach?
Quantitative.
Quantitative, that's right. So which item is counted? Which item is calculated? Because when we say quantitative, we should measure something, yeah?
Distance.
Logistic cost.
Transportation.
So a quick answer is cost, okay? So I will consider different types of costs in order to select the option with lower cost or higher cost.
Lower.
Lower.
Lower cost.
Lower cost, okay? So in this section, I will consider inventory cost, transportation cost, warehousing cost, facility cost, establishment cost, any different types of cost, human resource cost, in order to see which option has the lowest cost. So I will establish my warehouse, I will establish my factory or a store in that area. Okay, so that's the goal of step number 4. So maximize the overall profitability of supply chain by providing customers with appropriate responsiveness. I have repeated this slide before. If you remember, we had it before. But here I just want to highlight the point that we are getting to the same point, okay? The goal is to maximize profitability. How? By reducing the cost. And we need to consider many trade-offs. Sometimes you need to have a larger warehouse so that you save the transportation cost, or vice versa. Network design models used to decide location and capacity and assign current demand to the facilities. Okay, there are some inputs for optimization and selecting the best location. So these are all phase number 4, okay? I am still in phase number 4. I am just trying to open up a little bit about which factors I am considering. As you can see, I'm using some models or mathematical models in order to decide where should we establish, where should I locate my facility, okay? So I need some inputs for that decision. These are a list of decisions. We already know that. We already talk about that, like um, different costs, inventory costs, transportation costs, sales price, tax. Tax is also kind of cost. And desired response time, it means that how much I want to be close to customers. Am I fine if I stay a little bit far away from my customers? Demand forecast by market, location of potential sites. So these are all inputs, and it gives me some outputs at the end. Okay. So the rest of the slides in this, as I explained, is going to talk about optimization and mathematical modeling. I'm not going to teach you that, but the slides are provided. Okay, so if you just look at, for example, you want to establish a model in Excel so that it solves the problem and give you which location is the best. So you can just follow the slides. All different mathematical models are provided. And the way that, for example, here I am minimizing the establishment cost and also transportation cost in order to decide where should I establish. So all information are provided, how to enter them to Excel, how to solve the problem. And as I mentioned in your assignment, in course assignment, this is a bonus part, okay? So I have defined a question that if you follow the steps, even I have provided a formula, yeah? If you follow those steps, you will be able to solve the bonus question and gain some extra marks to compensate if you are not happy with your marks so far. So that's a good way that you can work on that and find the solution. First of all, you will learn and then you will gain some marks out of your work. Okay, so again, I'm not going to open them all. They are all available if you are interested to use all of these uh, problems and apply them in future in your work. Okay, so I would say that's all for today. Any questions?
Sir, do we get all these problems in midterm?
No, never. No midterm, no final exam.
Okay, sir.
That's why I made it a kind of bonus, kind of, extra mark if you want to do it as an assignment. So the last question in your assignment is discussing one of these problems, but one of the easiest one, not a difficult one. So that if you spend time, you can model it in your Excel file and just solve it and send it to me as a part of your course assignment. Any other questions? Okay, if there is no question, let me just list a few final notes. Um, if you have not decided course project, please select a topic and send to me as soon as possible. Priority is with the group that sends the topic earlier. Next week there is no class, so just use it for your course assignment and course project. Don't waste your time. That's a valuable time. Reading week, people normally do so many great things in that. And if you are not happy with your marks, definitely there is no makeup exam. But because I have designed it purposefully to just have 5% of your entire course mark, still you have a lot of opportunity to work. If the way that you are studying so far is not satisfactory, just change it. Okay. And if you are happy with what you have done, like many of you have done a great job in your first and second quiz, please do so. Please continue. And I am very happy from many of you. If there is any member in your group that is not collaborating, please share his or her name to me. I may send an email or ask to collaborate. Otherwise, I will reduce 30% of the mark of that student. Okay, I'm not going to fire that student. No, I don't have authority to fire that student. But that student's mark will be deducted 30%. Why 30%? Because the mark of your course assignment plus the mark of your course project in total will be 30%. So that student mark should be counted out of 70. And how much is the failure mark? Who remembers?
60.
Below
60.
60.
60. So that person has only 10 marks above 60 to save him or herself. Okay, so that's why it's very important that you work efficiently, okay, as a group. We are learning here how a set of companies are working together, yeah? So why we cannot learn how a set of people also work efficiently together? Okay, so that's a good practice. Any question? I see a hand raised. Please go ahead.
Yes, Professor. Professor, can you make a group on Teams? Uh,
Oh, sorry about that. Yes,
yes,
yes.
Professor.
That's something I will do in weekend. So those of you that wants to have online meetings, they can use a private team. So that private team will be created only for the members of that group, so that they can have, I don't know, if they want to have audio meetings or they want to have video meetings, they have both options. But thank you for reminding. I will do it by weekend.
Thank you, Professor.
Any other comments, questions, or concerns? Okay, if not, have a good time and see you in 2 weeks.
Sir,